Where are you finding your interior design clients? I can't say the word interior. Where are you finding your interior design clients? When I tell people that I run my own interior design business, this is usually the first question I get. And it's a question I've been asked by many of you as well. So today, we're gonna talk about it. What's up, designers? My name is Kelsey. I'm an NCIDQ certified interior designer and the owner of KLSY, a Manhattan-based design studio specializing in commercial spaces. My mission is to help other designers excel in their career while promoting transparency about the industry and profession. If you're new here, welcome to the party. Be sure to hit that subscribe button, the like button, all the buttons that are down below. And if you want to sign up for my email newsletter, I'll leave a link for that down in the description box as well. If you're on social media and follow any of the business entrepreneur gurus trying to sell you courses, you know who I'm talking about. The first thing every single one of them will tell you is to find your first few clients from your existing network. Go to your family, your friends, your colleagues, your aunt. They will be your first customers. And that is really great advice for someone selling a magic potion made of mushrooms and fairy dust. And it's also great advice for someone in residential design. In that case, everyone in your existing network and pretty much everyone in the world that you talk to is a potential client because everyone lives in a home or some other type of shelter. Like I already mentioned in my little intro, I design commercial spaces, which could be an office, restaurant, lobby, retail store. It's basically anything that's not a single family home. But unfortunately, my family does not own a bunch of commercial real estate. My friends don't own a business. My colleagues are also looking for clients, and my aunt sells Tupperware. So where the hell was I supposed to find my first couple of clients with no leads, no reputation, and absolutely no portfolio? In this video, I'm gonna tell you how I was able to build a client base and a pipeline that is reliable and recurring. But before I do that, I have to first go back to the beginning and give you a bit of backstory on KLSY. Back in 2022, I was working what would be my last formal design job at a small architectural firm. The firm did a little bit of design work, but the majority of the projects they took on were as the architect of record. An architect of record, if you don't know what that is basically the architect or firm that drafts the drawing set for a project. Oftentimes on large projects or projects where the client has either an in-house design team or they hired a special designer or a firm to do just the design, they will then hire an architect of record to take that design and draft a permit and construction-ready drawing set. For example, let's say a hotel wants to hire 𝐂𝐤𝐬𝐧 to design the interior because they love her particular style and they also want the bragging rights of it being designed by 𝐂𝐤𝐬𝐧. I don't know anything about Kelly personally, but I would assume that she's not doing her own drawing sets or has a team of architects big enough to handle a huge hotel project. She's gonna be doing the visioning, the concept, pulling the fabrics on the wall covering, all the fun stuff to make it look and feel like Kelly's vibe. Kelly's time is also very expensive, so the hotel needs to keep her hours as low as possible and doesn't want her wasting time figuring out all the little technical details. The hotel would then hire an AOR to take Kelly's design and draft a detailed drawing set that can be used for construction. I've worked at a few firms like this, and during my time there, I've worked on some big projects and with big clients like Starbucks, Reformation, big restaurant chains, but only doing like finished plans and schedules. So it sounds really glamorous, but like in reality, I was taking someone else's like grandiose design and like plugging it into a furniture schedule. So back to this job I had. In addition to projects like that, the company worked with a lot of landlords and brokers. 2022 was still in those weird post-pandemic times, so there was still a huge vacancy in commercial space in the city, and landlords and brokers were eager to lease them. When landlords and brokers are advertising space, they create these marketing brochures with information on the building. It'll have the square footage of the space and usually floor plans. They'll also pay to have test fits done if they have a warm lead on a tenant in order to show them what their plan layout could look like. It's like all in an effort to close the deal and show them, hey guys, you would fit perfectly in this space based on how many offices and workstations you need, and here's the exact floor plan that shows you what it would look like. So our job would be to survey the existing space, draft the existing floor plans, and then do the test fits for their tenant leads. And then occasionally they would give us like a lobby or corridor design project, which would be a nice little treat. The annoying part about this job was that it wasn't super thrilling. Doing surveys and test fits and construction drawings all day was pretty boring, to be honest. I will contradict myself right now by saying that I actually love doing test fits and surveys still to this day, because it is a time where I can go to site by myself, no one's talking to me, I can put on a more comfortable outfit, put my headphones in, and just sit there with my laser measure, my measuring tape, my iPad, my laptop, listen to some music, and I just have like a chill work day. So I am contradicting myself with saying I love doing surveys and test fits. But when you think about it, when other design firms who do all the glamorous jobs were laying people off because there was no design work for the past 2 years, AOR firms like this weren't. With the fall of commercial real estate, landlords were putting more energy into fixing up their vacant spaces and working harder to get tenants in the door. This type of work, I was learning, was essentially recession-proof. Working at this architecture firm, although it caused me grave amounts of pain and trauma for many other reasons, opened my eyes to this whole new world of clients. My entire viewpoint of commercial design up until this point was designing for single clients on single projects one time. Maybe 2 or 3 times if they're a big company and they open many more locations, but that's like striking gold for a designer. And what I saw when I was at larger firms was that they always had a director of business development. It was 1, max 2 people that just had a lot of relationships and knew a lot of people in the industry. Maybe they had run their own firm at one point. Maybe they've worked with a lot of significant clients, and so they had a big Rolodex of clients who they thought needed more work. And so these BD people, they would essentially just go out, try to get business. They would take clients to lunch, they would go to networking events, and they were basically just trying to find anyone on the client side that was working on a design project. And the people that they were seeking out were, big companies, like people that worked at Google, people that worked at, Facebook. Like, I'm just naming the 2 biggest companies that came to my mind. The problem with this business model in general is that you are constantly seeking out your next client and your next project. It is a hamster wheel, and if at any point you stop the sales and business development part, you soon run out of leads, and that's when the firms have mass layoffs. It's an exhausting cycle, and unfortunately one that I see often in this industry. Interior design as a career is a hamster wheel, and a lot of the reason why I make these videos and I do the online portion of my business is to get off of this hamster wheel, and I want you guys to get off the hamster wheel too. So stick around, we're getting off the hamster wheel. When working with brokers and landlords, there is rarely that final moment where a project ends, because there's usually always another task or project that follows it. And even when the market is good and there's a lot of activity of tenants moving into spaces, they're still in need of these plans and test fits, and sometimes they even need help with finishes and some design work for those tenants. After about a year of working at this particular firm, I decided I had had enough with the corporate world and enough with being treated like shit, and I officially launched KLSY, and I started getting the word out that I was looking for my own clients. This coincided with me actually working as a multi-line rep for the next year, and that same day I technically got fired from that design job. It's a long story, we'll get into it another time. While working as a rep, I used the flexibility of that job to work on my brand and start making YouTube videos, doing some cold outreach, basically anything to get the word out and try to find a client, because I was desperate to find even a single client. It wasn't until a broker that I met while I was working at that last AOR firm reached out to me after seeing one of my KLSY launch posts on LinkedIn. He told me that he was working on leasing some spaces in a building and he needed a survey done. It was a small space, a small scope, and an even smaller fee. But I said, absolutely yes, I will do it. I had my first client. Slowly, he connected me to some other landlords looking for small surveys and test fits like this. And during that year, I had a small but nice little Rolodex of these projects under my belt. Here and there, I'd get a few design jobs, like a lobby or 2, but the majority of my work were these surveys and test fits. About a year or so into my business, this same broker, which now him and I are very close friends, and I truly credit him for springboarding this business. If you're watching, you know who you are. He called me because he was representing a young tech firm moving into a new space. The landlord was giving them a TIA, so he would be paying for the majority of the build out, but they were still going to need a designer to do the actual design, as well as source the furniture and finishes. I was super excited because this was my first real office project. I literally could not be more excited to get started on this. In the scope, I was designing the pantry fully, the bathrooms, all the wall locations, and although the tech company was my client, they were the ones who paid me for my time and work, it was the landlord that was the one paying for the construction. So every part of what I designed needed to be approved by him. This does become a tricky situation when you have your client who's paying you money and you have the person who's actually paying for the project, but it actually turned out to be a really great project. It ran suspiciously really smoothly, and throughout the project, I began building a relationship with the landlord and the GC. It turns out that the landlord really liked working with me as well. After that project wrapped up, he asked if I did surveys and test fits, and of course, that's basically all I had been doing for the past few years. He slowly threw me more work, and over time, I became his go-to floor plan girl for this entire building. And then over a little bit more time, I became his go-to floor plan girl for his second building. So now I have a client that is bringing me recurring work. It's becoming more consistent income, which for entrepreneurs is really all you can ask for, especially in design, because as we've already discussed, this industry can be very volatile and project work can be very volatile. So this situation was great. And it's great if you want to do test fits and surveys for the rest of your life, which I don't. I'm a designer. I want to design something. So we have this recurring work. We have a small client base of landlords and brokers that call on us to do test fits and surveys. That's a great section of the business. But how do you find design clients now? You know, I'm at this point where I want to find more design clients. I want to work for more tenants. I want to do more of those one-off projects because that's the fun. That's where the creativity comes in. After about a year of working with this particular landlord, he started bringing me into more tenant meetings early on. In his mind, if he had a warm lead for a tenant, bringing his designer into the meeting to sketch out a floor plan in real time and talk with the tenant about their wants and needs and their vision for their new space, it would help him close the deal. And working with someone like me, an independent designer who already has all of the up-to-date floor plans because I surveyed them all in this building, I could turn these plans around same day if needed. So the landlord was now bringing me into these introductory meetings. Sometimes this was the first time he was meeting with this tenant. I was getting into these projects at ground level, hearing firsthand what these people were looking for in their new space and following them along throughout the entire process. It turns out that this strategy of bringing me in this early is a good one because it was working. And it still is working. I was helping him close deals, and in return, after a lease was signed, he would push the new tenant to hire me to finish out the rest of the design. I was already doing the drawing set for it. I had worked with the GC a ton. I knew the building, and the landlord liked working with me. So why shouldn't they just hire me and make this whole process even easier? That is when the light bulb went off. I don't need to run on the sales hamster wheel because I have a client that not only brings me his own recurring revenue, but is consistently bringing me easy to close design leads. Mic drop. This sector of the business, this type of clientele is something that people don't talk about, and I don't think a lot of designers know about, because when people ask me how I get my clients and I explain all of this to them, they look like their minds were literally just blown. And it's such a simple concept. And I think it's because we constantly see this glamorous side to interior design, the side where a huge exciting project lands on your desk out of the blue, or seeing firms and designers with these big reputations where people are literally knocking down their doors to have them design their spaces. But no one tells you how to get there when you're starting from scratch. And that was something that I thought was going to happen to me when I launched KLSY. That's why I put it in quotes before, because I think a lot of entrepreneurs feel this way. You think that you do your whole brand and you get your website running and everything looks beautiful and you start making content and then people are just gonna like come to you and ask to hire you. That is simply not how it works. And it took me a long time to get just my first few clients and my first few projects. So when you're thinking about how to get clients, think about the people who own the information or have the insights on who is in need of your services. Beyond landlords and brokers, which I already talked about a lot already, I really think you need to tap into your network if you know anyone in the real estate space. There are many other people that are associated with and involved deeply in this industry that could also be a lead generator for you. This could be owners representatives. They're also kind of in this like landlord broker bubble. Building managers, the actual people who work in the building, like the building supers. General contractors are also a great lead generator. You might not build a close personal bond with every contractor you work with, but over time you will with some, and they can be a great referral source. I would also think about vendors and subcontractors, thinking about like my painters, my wall covering installers. I use pretty much the same guys for every project because I like working with them. I trust them. I know they support and trust me. If I'm bringing them more work, they're over time going to refer me you work. I think when it comes to your reps, like your tile rep, your furniture rep, yes, they can be a great referral because they have the insights on projects, but I wouldn't say they're the best source, in my opinion, because A, they work with so many designers, unless you're their absolute favorite, it's a shot in hell that they would refer you versus the other 100 designers they work with. And B, because they're coming into projects a little further down the line and not right from the beginning. And by that time, a designer is already hired for that project, obviously, because they're calling their rep for samples. But these other people, the landlords, the brokers, building managers, many of the times they are getting into the project, like they're the first people involved in the project or brought into a project or are maybe creating the project. They're gonna be the ones that have that initial information. And when the client asks, hey, do you know of anybody? You want them to refer you, you want them to drop your name. So the bottom line I wanna leave you with is this. They say it's who you know, not what you know. And I think to a point that's true. Everything that I've talked about is about knowing the right people, having relationships with the right people. That is how you get business. But knowing someone isn't enough to be successful in business and continue generating repeat clients. You actually have to provide good service. I could have designed that tech project, done a mediocre job, and then walked away out to seek my next one and done project. Instead, probably because I was so excited it was my first office project, I put 100% of myself into this project. I worked fast, I was extremely responsive, I was on site a lot, and I made an effort to build a relationship with the project team. It was all of that stuff that made the landlord want to continue working with me because it made his life easier. That is why people want to hire you, to make their lives and jobs easier. If you're not doing that, I don't care if you're their best friend, they're not going to keep hiring you. I also learned that you don't need 1 million clients to have a profitable business. You need a few really good ones that you trust, that you like working with, and that truly support you and want you to succeed. So stop chasing those one-off clients and projects. I want you to start building relationships with these key people that can actually create a pipeline for you so that projects come to you and you can get your ass off that hamster wheel. This video was more of a story time video than it was my typical, like, here's all the tips, but I really hope that my experience can teach you something valuable and has shown you a different and maybe more realistic side to this career, and also maybe opened you up to a whole new client base that you didn't even know existed. If you liked it, let me know by hitting that like button and leaving me a comment. And if you're looking for more interior design content, then be sure to hit that subscribe button, check out some more of my videos right here, and with that, I will see you in my next video. Bye.